What's up everyone, George Leeman here with MuscleMasochist.com. As you guys know, I'm doing a series on programming tips, how to make your own program better or write your own program, etc. Things you can do, things to take into consideration. This episode, I'm going to talk about how often you should be training, schedule, what time of the day you should train, stuff like that. And rather than give you specific, hard, rock-solid advice, I'm going to tell you just to learn for yourself and take it into consideration how you feel. Now, obviously beginners can train more often than advanced lifters. So the stronger you get, most likely the more time you need to recover between workouts and stuff like that. Not the case for everyone, not the case for beginners so much who can train 3, 4, 5 days a week, even all of those days training legs, mind you. Squat 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days a week and make great progress. An advanced lifter or a stronger lifter or let's say more beat down over time, more experienced lifter might cripple himself trying to do that shit. So when you are a beginner, the more often you can train and recover, the better. How often you can train and recover is specific to you. However, you can increase it by training more often. If you were to do a program like Small where you squat 4 days a week or something like that, you're going to find that after you finish that program, you train and recover much faster. You probably recover in a day or 2 days versus you used to take an entire week to recover back when you train legs 1 day a week. So take into consideration your injuries, your experience level, and stuff like that. However often you can train and recover is probably how often you should be training for best results, assuming you don't get aches, pains, and injuries and stuff like that. That is a big assumption because the more often you train, the heavier you train, the more wear and tear on your body. Typically, more injuries, more wear and tear, more problems. When I was younger, I used to train legs 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe even 14 days in a row, followed by a period of time off, maybe 3 to 7 days off to beat my body down harder than I could in one workout, followed by super compensating, eating a ton, gaining weight, and then fully resting. A lot of people will squat, say 3 days a week, squat, off, deadlift, off. They never fully recover the way they would if they were to do, say, multiple sessions in a row followed by 4 days off instead of 1 day off or something like that. So take into consideration, do you do better spacing things out of the week or possibly even training certain things multiple days in a row? At the moment, when I deadlift, I'll do my leg and back work, and then the next day I'll come back in and do lats and abs and traps and calves and stuff like that, more leg work. I don't do it all in the same day primarily now just because I find it much more injury prone to do it all on the same day because I'm exhausted, and I don't train as hard or as long when I'm just completely fucked from having done, a few hard sets of heavy leg work. So something I've done is to do workouts multiple days in a row or split them up versus, deadlift and back, 1 day off, legs, 1 day off, legs and back, 2 days off. I would not recover the same. I need a certain amount of recovery, and everyone needs a certain amount of recovery. Now, as I said, you can increase your recovery ability through supplements, through training more often, through being young, through, just maintaining general health and mobility and stuff like that. But it's going to be different for everyone, so learn what works best for you. You may be able to squat 7 days a week with great results. I've done it. Other people have done it. Bulgarian method. However, long term, I definitely think it'll lead to more injuries. I definitely think it'll lead to more aches and pains. So you have to tell yourself, you have to factor, are the faster results right now going to take away my results later? When I was younger, I would train, like I said, multiple days in a row, very high volume, just beat the shit out of myself, and I got incredible results. But what ended up happening was, on my squat specifically, because that was my favorite lift growing up, was I got injured much more often. I became much more immobile, had more aches and pains, and overall I would have been better off doing one set of squats every week, even putting a pound on my max every week versus shooting for a 30-pound gain in a week or a 20-pound gain or 50-pound gain in a month or a 100-pound gain in 6 months. I've been better off adding a pound to my squat a week, not hurting myself, not beating myself down. That's my experience, okay? Now, I do think that people should train higher volume and, risk a little bit more when they're beginners because you can. I can't risk as much at the moment. But if I was 14 years old or a 20-year-old new male to lifting, I for sure would train much more volume, much more frequently than I do now, and I would take sort of a larger risk in terms of that than I do now. Something else to consider when designing your own schedule, aside from just how often are you training something, how dangerous is it, and stuff like that, you want to take into consideration what time of the day should you be training. If you have to work a 10-hour day breaking rocks, you should definitely be training before you do that. Definitely. And let's say you do that job 3 days a week. You probably shouldn't be training on days where you beat the shit out of yourself, unless you're doing it beforehand. If you have a lot of shit to do, everyone has stuff to do. They have kids, they have school, they have work. There are things that stress them out and make it so they're not at their best on certain days. Factor your schedule around that. Train on a day that you're rested. Train on a day that you don't have anything else to do, if possible. So that's going to be specific to you. You're going to have to learn what your schedule is, when you feel best during the day, how you perform best, how often you can train for the best results, and stuff like that. They're all things to take into consideration. My general advice is the stronger you are, the more safe you have to be in terms of frequency. There are some exceptions to the rule, and the newer you are, the more often you can get away with training, and the better results you'll get from training frequently versus taking a week off every time you do squats, for example. I do not recommend that for beginners. Now, you may only squat once a week, but if you don't have another day of the week or something like that where you're doing some other kind of leg work, a different sort of squat or a deadlift or something like that, I think you goofed a little bit, assuming you're able to do it. If you're injured, that's different. If you have problems with your knees or your back or something, of course, I can understand why you're not training as frequently as you could. However, otherwise, I do believe gains are made faster training more frequently as a beginner. Depending on the amount of volume you do in the workouts, depending on the amount of weights you're using and the exercise you're doing, typically more often is better. Personally, at this point in my training career, I don't train in a way that any of my clients train. I train all of my clients differently than I train, simply because I know my body very well, I know my schedule very well, I know what I can do, I know what I can't do, I know what'll hurt me, I know what'll lead to aches and pains and stuff, and by avoiding those things, I make the best possible progress. For me, it's more important not to get aches, pains, and injuries to make progress than it is to get a faster result. Because the results are for sure going to come if you're doing the right thing. And I typically always am doing the right thing. However, if you get hurt, it doesn't matter. You can't do anything. So always take that into consideration. Try and have a better schedule than whatever cookie cutter program you got wrote for you. Maybe even just take that program and move it to different days that suits you better. Try and train at the time of day that's best for you, and always take into consideration your training experience, your aches and pains, your injuries, your goals, and if something is worth it to train more frequently or to train less frequently. It's going to be up to you. It's something you're going to have to learn on your own. As always, guys, thanks for watching my videos. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and check out musclemasochist.com for approved products, apparel, and online coaching, and stay tuned for more.